The night of the assassination, there were 1,700 people here. And sometimes they put more chairs in, up to 2,000 people. Now it's 650. What you're looking at is a reconstruction of the theater as it was in 1865. After the assassination, the Ford brothers intended to put on a play called The Octoroon very soon after the assassination. And they received at least one threatening letter saying, if you put on productions in the place where the president was murdered, we don't know what will happen to you. There were threats to burn down the theater. So the War Department seized this building. The Ford brothers were put out of business. They were later paid $100,000 for the theater. A South Dakota congressman in the 1950s proposed a bill to change Ford's theater back to the way it looked. It was completed in 1968, and for the first time in 103 years, it was actually used as a theater again. Here was a popularly elected president who was shot. And it's just, when you think about it, when you think that it happened during a comedy play in a theater, it's astounding. Fact really is stranger than fiction. And we have John Wilkes Booth to thank for that, of course, because he wasn't satisfied to have his name go down in history as the assassin of a dictator, of a tyrant. He had to do it in front of a full audience. And I really despise him for that. I have to say, I can't be objective about him. And as one of James, who was here before, I hadn't thought of it this way, but he came up behind a man and shot him in the back of the head, and expected to be lauded in history for killing a tyrant. John Wilkes Booth was drinking next door. His plan was to assassinate the president at 10:15. He had it timed with the funniest line in the play. So he got here early, parked his horse out in back, and went through the building under the stage and up to 10th Street to have some whiskey, because he was nervous. So he came in at 10, he left the bar at 10, came right up the stairs, stood in that area. People saw him, eyewitnesses saw him leaning against the wall. He was listening to the play, waiting for Act 3, Scene 2. Made his way down the stairs here, handed his calling card to Mr. Lincoln's valet, went in. He had put a piece of wood in there earlier in the day, and he blockaded himself in so nobody could follow him while he was waiting there in the dark. Funniest line in the play happened. Goes into the door, shoots Mr. Lincoln from about 6 inches away, drops his gun because it's a one-shot gun. Major Rathbone is sitting on the other side of the box, tries to stop Booth. Booth slashes him down the arm with his knife. Then Booth jumps over the right side of the box there, down into the stage, runs to center stage, yells. There's conflicting evidence, but most people say he yelled "Sic semper tyrannis," which means "thus always to tyrants," and then escaped out the same door he came in, out in the back, and rode off on his horse and was captured 12 days later and shot and killed. He told his sister when he was a teenager that he wanted to be remembered in history if it meant toppling the Colossus of Rhodes. Colossus of Rhodes was one of the 7 ancient wonders of the world, a huge statue which is in there. But he said if he wanted to be remembered, and it didn't matter what he did, and he got his chance here. He wasn't as good an actor as his father, wasn't a good actor as his brother. He had fame and he had money, but he wanted more. And that's why we're all here today. The Ford brothers were thrown into jail for several months. Anybody who was an actor was thrown into jail. People who looked like John Wilkes Booth were beaten to death. It was so, people were so just upset by this. No president had ever been assassinated before, and I think part of it was guilt, because I think a lot of people didn't realize how wonderful Abraham Lincoln was until he wasn't here anymore. I guess people just thought he'd always be around. People complained about him. He was too slow. He was too slow with emancipation. He was picking the wrong generals. He wasn't dealing with the war correctly. He had a lot of critics. I think his biggest fans were soldiers who just really loved him. He went from being old Abe in the beginning of the war to Father Abraham towards the end of the war.